I don't really need to be like an all-time director of like a big Hollywood movie. That would be great. It would be stressful as hell. But like being a part of something bigger than myself and making something really great happen and making something look beautiful would make me happy.
I done been through so much shit you couldn't fantasize it. Trying to speak on what I lost, but I could never find it. I'm sorry if I get that love that I can't recognize.
Welcome back to Opinionated the Podcast, Season 2. I'm your host, Joshua Hicks, and alongside me, as always, my brother from another mother, Ree Washington. And today, we have our director in the house, Miss Rose Palmer.
Hey,
How
what's
are
up?
you, Rose?
I'm doing great. For once, I'm not behind the camera. It's really weird.
It is good because now the people actually get to see who does all the editing for us. This is who it is.
Yep, I'm the one who gets to stare at your faces for months.
She's probably tired of hearing our voices, looking at us.
She's always editing us out. But Rose, just tell the people a little story of how you and I came about.
Well, essentially what happened was I was just hanging out, and I have this best friend from art school who was my roommate. She went to the animation department, and she texted me because one of her friends, Lauren, texted her, and she's like, hey, listen, like these podcast guys are wanting to do a podcast, so they asked Lauren, but like we're animation students. We don't do podcasts.
Yeah.
They're like, maybe you can do it. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah, and I think our conversation was so organic at first. Like we were just texting, and then we finally got the phone calls, and then we
had,
brought
like, a
Ree.
FaceTime.
Yeah, then we brought Ree, and I kept
Yeah.
mentioning Ree. She was like, "Well, who is Ree?" Because he's never in our
Who
meetings.
is this man?
What did you say first? You told her something like, hey, just come to me if you have any.
Oh yeah, I was like, if you have any issues with certain things, just come to me first, and then we'll go to Ree. And I mean, when we had our first meeting together as a group, we just were laughing, and it felt organic, it felt
clicked.
real, and we all knew what we wanted out of this podcast. So now to be in season 2, it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
yeah, it's
It
like,
feels like the first shooting was so long ago, but it was really not that
it
long
was only
ago.
7 months ago. That's
Yeah.
the crazy thing about it. I think when people talk about the podcast, they're like, oh, are you guys content with like your numbers? Obviously, like we're never going to be content with what we're doing.
Well, yeah.
But it's like we started in January. And
I mean, I told you guys from the beginning, like it is, you're not going to see the payoff for a long time. It's one of those slow burns where you just like keep putting passion into it. And the more you put passion into it, people will see that and they'll come.
yeah, and I think with me, it was like it started off originally as my baby. And then my baby became Ree's baby, and then we brought you in, and now it's our baby as like a family. And then we have
Right.
Chris in the background, who y'all will see eventually. But it's like we're one big family, and it's
He's
like
a great add-on. He's
yeah.
a great
Yeah.
add-on.
And when we talk about Opinionated Podcast, it's like I mentioned all of us. We are here with my boy Chris Cepeda. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
It's finally good to see your face on the screen. We always have you in the background, but just tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised in a border town in Texas, way down south, Edinburgh, Texas. Shout out to the Valley.
Right.
Yeah. Born and raised there. Found out that I loved film in like high school. Couldn't do anything else, and so I moved to Kansas City to come to the Art Institute for film.
And what made you get into film?
I just found out that they had the class, and I was like, that sounds fun. Like, I love movies. I love watching them. I love dissecting them. And I tried it out, and it was like nothing I had ever done before. I mean, it just made me so excited. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it felt like my calling if I could try one out,
And I mean, just tell the audience, how did you and Rose come about? I'll save this question for you because I wanted your version.
She over there looking at him like, you better not say nothing.
We were on the same, we had co-ed dorms, and you had to live on campus for the first year. And so we got to know each other. There were periods of time when we were friends, but then there was times when we were like really busy, so we weren't able to talk because art school just like really, it's a lot the first year. But then second year is when we're both in film. And so we started to get to know each other more. We started talking. I didn't pick up on a lot of hints I should have. But thankfully, with enough time and with enough patience from my amazing, beautiful girlfriend, we just started going out. We started dating, and we have been dating for like 2 years now, over 2 years.
The bond you guys have is crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like from the outside looking in,
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause like for us being older than you guys, but it's like to see you two so young in love, it's like I'm striving for that. I
Right.
want that.
Relationship goals. So Rose, what do you take away from these episodes? Like actually getting to be behind the scenes and actually get to see them in person.
Well, it's interesting. Like I sit there and I like listen to them all live, and I have to pay attention to what's being said, and like because I'm working on the audio level, so I really have to like take in the information. And a lot of them focus on like self-help and like working on oneself and like energy and like I found myself sitting there a lot of times like taking in information and like taking in advice, because as like a 22-year-old who's still deep in it on working on themselves and not always succeeding and like sad some days, like a lot of it has resonated with me. And like so I've thought about myself a lot while listening and like just taking in people's advice.
Because I mean, Ree and I were talking about it even this morning. We were like, we have to always remember, Rose, you're like 4 years younger than us.
Yeah.
So it's like, even we have certain conversations and we're like, well, we would do it this way. Well, of course. But when we were your age, it's like,
We probably did it that way.
we probably did it the same exact way. So it's
Yeah.
like to see you and Chris, you know, both grow with us, and now you guys are going to be seniors in college. It's like, we definitely have to probably make a way out there to your graduation and be out there
Oh,
to
hell yeah.
surprise y'all. But I mean, just to see the growth, not only in Ree coming up with the podcast, because this wasn't his thing, but to see you, and it's like we went from no mics to now we're shooting
Yeah.
in 4K. It's like,
But we
man.
also like listen to her though. She gives us advice, and then like, no, it needs to be done this way. I think from the jump, you kind of like, look, what she says goes. I don't
Yeah.
care who. I
Yeah.
don't care who it is. If they got a problem
Yeah.
with her, they could be gone.
And that was the first
You know
thing.
what
That
I'm
was the first thing I told
About
you
respecting
when I had a meeting with Ree privately. I said, look, we're gonna treat Rose like, yes, is it me and Ree and I show? Yeah.
Yeah.
You are the director though, so whatever you say go, that's what we're doing. And I told Ree that, and I was like, look, if somebody ever has an issue with how we're editing it or whatever the case may be, they can go, because it starts off with us three first, and anybody else, it is what it is. And then of course we brought in Chris.
Yeah, my partner Chris.
Yeah, who brought
Good
in.
old helping hand.
I think the important part is that we kind of built like a family. You know, just getting to know each other, just being around each other constantly. You know, though it's like, you know, max of 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
total. I feel like we got to learn each other a lot,
Yeah.
especially in Miami.
Yeah, and I
stuff like
mean,
that, 'cause
and
we-
it's long days. I don't think the people see how much what we do and what we accomplish in
It's
4 to 5
tiring.
days. Yeah, and it's like we're together from literally, we could start shooting from 10 a.m. and we won't wrap up till 5, 6. We may go out to eat or we may go grab a drink. So it's like our days is like 12-hour days with one another, and it's like we have no choice but to get to know one another and respect each other to some
Yeah.
extent.
sometimes I feel like it's just another episode in a way. Like we personally don't know the guests and stuff like that. So we personally don't know you guys to every extent. So it's just like, you know, hey, like, you know, when we was in Miami, we just talking about, you know, what our favorite movies were, and then like if this scenario
Yeah,
happens,
we start having
so,
those
yeah,
deep
just-
conversations off camera where it's like, it's not, we won't say stage, but it's like we're really getting to know one another and take each other's
like learning
lives
the
seriously.
stories about each other and stuff.
Yeah, it's like even now, like we go to movies together, and it's like, man, we really are a family.
Right.
Saw Black Widow last night.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
So I know I couldn't go to a movies with you guys because you guys are analyzing it. He knows.
Nah,
I ask
he
questions.
let me ask him 2 questions yesterday.
He
So
said, you got 2 questions today, Josh.
I made him count.
Thank you.
But you know, to switch it up a little bit, tell us about your first interaction with Ree.
Ooh, yeah. So Rose gets this phone call, and it's from like a number she doesn't know, and so she looks to kind of find him like, oh, do you want me to answer it? And she was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I pick it up, and I was like, hello? And I hear this voice going like, oh, yeah, where's Rose? Who is this? Who is this? Where's Rose? Like, you're the one that called. You tell me. Who are you? And then, yeah, very, very angry back and forth until I heard, this is Ree. And then Rose went, oh, shit, and like took the phone. And yeah.
I called Josh so bad. I'm like, bro, who is this? I'm like, she gave me that. I was so heated, but she, you know, it's kind of me and Rose
Yeah.
evened out because I eventually did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when I picture Chris in my mind, I'm like, okay, if he's going back and forth with Reed, this has to be like a big guy. And when I finally met you, I was like, that would have been the shortest fight in history.
Yeah.
Like, I would not have blamed you if you would have like shot him in the knee or something like that. But I mean, Chris,
Take
you
me
know,
out. Just take me out.
you've been around with us since the beginning of the podcast as
Yeah.
well. So just tell us a little bit about like what you think of the show so far.
I mean, I love it. I'm really happy to be a part of it. Every time you guys come in, it's always, you guys get these really amazing people on. And, you know, working in film, like obviously, you know, I got my own goals. I want to do these big things if possible. But, you know, this kind of show reminds me of why I just love the idea of working in this to any capacity.
Yeah.
You know, helping make this show that I think is important and that I think you guys love. Just, you know, it makes me excited.
But no, Rose, tell the people just a little bit about like what made you want to get into film.
Well, so I grew up in Wichita, and I was a huge theater kid. Like, I loved theater, and I still love theater, and I miss not only working on stage, but like off stage as a production, like not production, that's film, but as a stage manager and like working in that fast-paced, ever-changing environment. And so when I was picking a college, I knew I always loved art. I was always in the advanced art classes. I knew I thought about being a mortician, didn't do it, but basically my choices of going to KCAI was like, either I'm going into animation or I'm going into film, because those two are industry like jobs, and it's not like you're on your own being like a freelance painter. It's not as big of a risk. It's still risk, but it's not as big. Film was the perfect marriage of theatrics and creating a story, but also doing something with my hands and puzzle piecing things together. I love problem solving, and I hate doing jobs that are the same every day.
Yeah, because this is it's a new journey every day, correct?
Yeah, I worked in an office earlier this year doing an editing job, but it was like, it was one of those, like, it was the same every day. And it wasn't a new edit. It was like the same edit every day. And I was like, man, I like being on set. Like, I like working with a camera and then editing.
Yeah, go ahead, Ree.
I feel like just you and Rose, you guys like learn us through just hearing us so much and just talking about our experiences. You know what I mean? And I think off camera, Josh and I were talking about how, like, I think Rose had said something like, I would like want to see you guys when you do, you know what I'm saying, finally find that relationship that you want.
I was
you know
telling
what
them about the night we was coming back from PBR and we stopped at the wing place, and Rose was saying how she felt almost invested in our love lives because she wanted to see just the growth in us and how happy that we would be once we found that special someone. So that's what he's just kind of touching on a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, even behind the cameras, and once this is all done, like, we actually go hang out, we actually go get to know one another. It's not like a quick little business transaction where it's just like, all right, here you go, and
much more
the
than
show
that.
is done. Yeah, it's like, no, we sit down, we tell each other stories. And I mean, when we went to Miami, that was actually like probably the time where we got as close, because we were telling some heartfelt stories, and you were telling us, you know, a little bit about your brother. And I mean, I'm not gonna, that's not for this, but just how you grew up, it was just like, wow, just to see where you are now. I salute to you.
Hey, man, it's all thanks to, you know, my parents, my family, being like pretty much first generation and everything. You know, there's a lot of pressure, that I put on myself. But yeah, man, where I'm at is all thanks to them, their hard work.
So what was the one film or even director that like made you say, I want to get into this industry?
Well, the thing is, it wasn't really a film that did it. It was me realizing that, like, I enjoyed the process of making things, but as directors that I enjoy go, I'm terrible at names. We'll see how well this goes.
And don't ask us, because we probably don't know what movies they made.
Honestly, really anything made by the company A24, I love all their movies. They give, like, more, what's the word for it, like indie scripts a chance. And so they just kind of go off the wall and they make like really cool movies that are like story driven and story focused and like visually fun, and they play with it. So I really like all the stuff they make. I get excited every time one of their movies come out. They did Midsummer. And they did Sorry to Bother You, which is a great movie.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, that movie's wild.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought it was interesting, not to cut you off.
Very good.
Remember when we first met you kind of explained how when you moved here is when you first seen snow?
Yeah.
You mind explaining that? You mind?
Yeah.
Didn't you say you thought it was fake on TV and stuff like that?
Well, what I thought was fake was because, like, I grew up in a desert. Yeah. I did not have seasons. I had 80-degree Christmases. It got cold for like a couple weeks, and by cold I mean like 30s maybe.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in the movie The Godfather, which is my favorite movie of all time, I was listening to the commentary track, and for a scene that was during the fall, they talked about they had to paint all these individual leaves to make it look like that. And so I interpret that as, oh, all the colors I always see on movies, TV shows, that's fake. It has to be fake. Because, I mean, it's always just, it goes from green to brown here. Like, it can't be like that. So I moved to Kansas City, and I'm, like, working. And at some point, I finally look up, and I see this, like, beautiful array of colors just all around me on all these trees. And I was going out on a shoot, and I got to drive out, and it looked amazing. And I just, honest to God, I was shocked, and I felt so dumb. And that was also the first time I saw heavy snow. It looked so beautiful from the window of my dorm, and then I took a step outside, and I hated it. Never wanted to get
relate because
I'm from Miami, so when I went to school in Illinois for the first time, I saw the snow coming down, and I was late to class. I'm always on time for everything that I am, so I was 45 minutes late to class, and he actually showed up to class on time because he was ready to see how I was going to react to the snow.
Yeah.
So when I came in, I was like the dead last person in. Everybody's smiling, and everybody's like, so what do you think? And I was like, man, I hate this place. Like, but like the snow. So like him and I were walking back from class, and the snow was falling, and like it was hitting me in my face. But so I'm like, he's like, what are you doing?
Hit you in the eye, and you're
yeah,
like,
I'm like, I don't like y'all just let the snow land on y'all face, and he was like, yeah, it melts. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes more sense now.
Yeah.
So I almost gave myself a concussion because I kept like just hitting my face just to knock the snow off.
there is one actress or actor that you could direct, who would it be?
Oh, Donald Glover. Chris's answer is probably the same too, but I would go Donald Glover.
And that's Childish Gambino for the people who don't know.
Josh Gambino. Leonardo DiCaprio, just because he goes hard. Like, that would be fun. I love Margot Robbie just because I think she's really fun. She did a great job as, like, Tanya in the ice skating movie.
You create the movie of your dreams. You have 5 people that you're allowed to show this to privately. Who are you inviting?
Do they got to be alive?
Dead or alive?
Jim Henson, the guy who made the Muppets.
Okay.
I love that guy. Probably Francis Ford Coppola, the guy who directed The Godfather, like ushered in a new age of cinema as far as I'm concerned, or at least one of the person who spearheaded it. My grandma wouldn't understand a word of it because she only spoke Spanish, but I still think that'd be cool. Kermit the Frog.
Right.
Kermit, just like Kermit. Jim Henson's on one seat, Kermit's on the other.
Yeah, okay. Now you don't need the puppet master. You just need Kermit.
Yeah,
Okay.
like Kermit incarnate, like
Okay.
come to life.
Inspiration.
Yeah. And you know what? Just for fun, just throw it in. The guy who shot and killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand and started World War I, the Hungarian guy, just to see what's up.
You and Rose with these history people.
I'm lost.
I mean, the guy started World War I. I mean, why not have him check out my movie?
So, I mean, Rose touched on it a little bit, but tell us about who Donald Glover means to you. Like,
oh, I mean, like, for me, Donald Glover, I mean, he's just so, he comes from, Atlanta. He didn't come from, the upper echelons of Hollywood where it feels like a lot of people sometimes come from. He came in young. He came in strong. He understood what, internet culture was. He wasn't trying to, fake anything, it felt like. And so I always respected that. I loved that. It felt like he was making art. He was elevating what film and television and music could be. And I mean, I just hope I can have like the tiniest little mark on the film industry. If I could just add something, that'd be awesome. And he's already done so much. So yeah, I mean, I think he's amazing.
So in 5 years, Rose, where do you see yourself?
Well, hopefully, me and Chris make our way to New Zealand or really wherever we end up going. We're kind of planning on branching out of the country for a while. But I want to work on, I either want to take the route of editing, but I still want to be on set. But when it comes to being on set, I think I want to focus on art direction, which is like they're the people that make the environment look good. They're the people who trash the house that you're going to film in for like a party scene. Make a lot of the props. It's just something about that physicality. I think I would have a lot of fun doing that, as well as like how diverse it is from a day to day and all the projects you get to work on. So I think I would like really be down to do that. I don't really need to be an all-time director of like a big Hollywood movie. That would be great. It would be stressful as hell. But like being a part of something bigger than myself and making something really great happen and making something look beautiful would make me happy.
And I mean, whenever you have free time, will you always come back home to Opinionated the Podcast?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. You guys have just become like family. Like, you know, I think we make a good team.
Oh yeah. Chris, I would ask you how people can get in touch with you, but you don't have social media like that anyway.
I do not.
And
No.
if you can't get no DMs because of Rose. So with that being said, he's Ree Washington. I go by the name of Joshua Hicks. This wraps up another great episode of Opinionated the Podcast Season 2. Love always.
She said, why is it when I call that you always hit decline? Cause every time I pick up, it's the same thing every time. You ask me how I'm doing, and I tell you that I'm fine. Trying to match these demons that I sing about every line. She said, why is it